Hydra the Revenge is, in my opinion, the best coaster at Dorney Park. With its insane hang time, whip, and underrated airtime, this is one of the best B&M loopers I've been on. During my very short visit to Dorney in the summer of 2023, almost every coaster there was overhyped for me, but Hydra delivered what I expected and more. And today, we will be talking about this hidden gem and what to expect from your next ride on Hydra the Revenge. This coaster is obviously a floorless coaster, manufactured by B&M. It was built on May 7, 2005 for $13 million and replaced the Greek-themed coaster Hercules, and opened with another Greek-themed name, Hydra, which is a many-headed water snake from Greek mythology. This coaster features a max height of 95 feet, but the drop is 105 feet, pulling a real Orion. This coaster also has 3,189 feet of track and a top speed of 53 miles an hour. And a total of 7 incredible inversions, one of which is the best inversion I've ever experienced, the JoJo roll, which I will talk about later. And finally, this ride also has 3 really good airtime moments through its twisted and diverse layout, which I'm going to talk about right now. Like I said, this has one of the craziest starts to a coaster ever, the JoJo roll. This is an inclined heartline roll, and in the front row, you get a solid 5 seconds of glorious hang time. And since this happens right out of the station, your restraint is super loose. And pair that with the fact that you have old school B&M over the shoulder restraints, and you have my personal favorite inversion. After this, you go into a 180-degree right-hand turn and enter the lift hill, which brings you into this ride's first drop. And let me say that this drop is nothing to sleep on. And in the back row, it feels like a mini B&M hyper drop with some solid airtime. After that is a tilted dive loop, which feels like a normal dive loop, so it has some solid positive G's and whip in the back row. After this is a super floaty 0G roll, which had my butt lifting out of its seat a lot more than I thought. Then there's a basic corkscrew, which is pretty forgettable, but is still a fun element nonetheless. Afterwards, you go into a weirdly shaped cobra roll, and I have some mixed feelings about it, because in the front row, you barely get any forces going through this, but in the back, you really get whipped through it, so I really don't know if I love or hate this segment of the ride. They also do take your picture here, so that's nice. After exiting the Cobra roll, you go into an S hill, which looks stupid, but oh my lord did this surprise me. This hill has some solid floater airtime, and it's definitely better towards the front because you really get pushed over this underrated element. Next comes the single greatest moment on this ride. This airtime hill right here somehow has better and more sustained ejector than the 5,000 foot long hypercoaster right next to it. I'm sorry Steel Force, but you suck. Anyway, this hill is super good in both the front and the back, because in the front, it pushes you over it with a whole bunch of force, and in the back, you get sustained ejector all the way down. And I genuinely think I hurt my shoulders the first time I rode this, because I wasn't ready for them to get slammed into this restraint because of the sweet, sweet airtime. After this, you go into a slightly better than the first corkscrew, which has some notable forces, but is still a fun element. And finally, you go through some forceless turns that's only purpose is to give you views of Steel Force before crawling into the brakes, ending, in my opinion, the best coaster at Dorney Park. Some other things that I want to mention about this ride is that its color scheme is downright perfect, and so are the trains. They really match the ride's name and the theme super well. The logo also helps fit the ride's theme, and it looks great when you are walking up to this attraction. And although I don't understand why Dorney has to give their B&Ms a weird phrase at the end of their name, I mean, I don't know a single person who actually calls these coasters Hydra the Revenge or Talon the Grip of Fear. And yes, if I haven't already said this enough, this is my favorite coaster at Dorney Park. Because when I went to this park for a quick visit, all I heard is that people were talking about Steel Force, and it's the best coaster in the park because of its incredible airtime and how it's basically a smooth magnum. But I'm here to say that maybe it's because I wasn't warmed up or something, but none of the rows on this ride gave me any airtime in the slightest. And don't you dare compare this ride to the perfectness of Magnum. And then, the others were saying that Talon was the best coaster in the park because of its intense forces and snappy inversions. But my favorite part about this coaster was the freaking color scheme, if I'm being completely honest. So, I actually found Steel Forceless and Talon being my least favorite coasters in the park, and Hydra and Possessed being my favorite. And no, I have not been on either Iron Menace or Thunderhawk, so this opinion may change, but still. I also want to point out that while many say that this ride has a very strong rattle, I barely feel it, and it's not nearly as bad as other B&Ms like Rougarou. Hydra is just overall such a good ride and should never be overlooked or skipped when you're going to Dorney Park. And in total, I would give this very solid ride an 8 out of 10. With all of this said, thank you so much for watching this video, and please like and subscribe if you want to see more reviews, rankings, and much more in the future of this channel. And also, if there's a coaster that you want us to review, tell us down in the comments and we will gladly make a video about it. And as always, we will see you later. Peace!